for Forever Football, DRFC, your Doncaster Rovers fan channel, and welcome to a rebrand of the Footy Talk interview series called Rovers and Rivals. We're going to get all the big clubs, all the small clubs, all the worldwide clubs, fan bases involved in discussing about their club situation currently at this moment. So for the first official rebranded series episode, we're going to focus on Tottenham Hotspur. And with me is a guy that's no stranger to Tottenham's ups and downs, a star of That Tottenham Show on the Football Terrace. Of course, you guys know him from the Football Terrace as well. Is the one and only Alan. Alan, how you doing?
I'm not too bad. Thank you for having me.
It's no worries, mate. So, of course, today we're going to talk. Obviously, Tottenham's going through a lot at the minute with Antonio Conte, with Enoch and Levy, the fan protest this season. It's all been going down, unfortunately, in a bad way for Tottenham. So, I mean, we might as well get started there with Antonio Conte. I mean, first of all, we knew it was happening, and then we heard that he's pulled out of the talks. He's not going through with them, and then we hear different reasons and different factors behind that decision. With the fact that he wanted 7 staff members or whatever it was, and Tottenham could only promise 3 or 4, and Conte was apparently too ambitious for the board's liking, and there was loads of reports coming out. I mean, how torrid is this period right now for Tottenham? Because from the sounds of it, it is not looking good.
This period for Spurs takes me back to in my lifetime, sort of Juan de Ramos, like Christian Gross, sort of like all them type of managers where things were really bad for us. For me, I can't believe how much of how bad it's got for Spurs in such a short period of time from Poch. No clarity on what we're doing or ambition-wise on or off the pitch. Players we buy is not correct. The whole thing with Conte is basically, I believe now, because I bought into the hype that he might be coming, but I think it was done by Daniel Levy, shrewd businessman, for season ticket renewals and stuff like that. I think that's all it was, because apparently we pulled away to save face. I don't think it was ever a legitimate offer. And now we're going back to managers that we kind of turned away from earlier on. So why would they come to us after we treat them like that? There's just so many things wrong with Spurs at the moment. Kane wanting to leave. So not only that, your best player, no manager. Daniel Levy hasn't sorted out the naming rights for the stadium for 2 years plus. There's just so many problems at Spurs.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like there's a real problem with the club at the moment, and the main focus of the problem and why the club is, failing to be ambitious to get towards those Champions League places and win trophies is the guy that's been there for 20 years, Daniel Levy and Enoch.
Yeah, I mean, he's put in there to basically do the business for Joe Lewis, Enoch. He's in there to do all the business, and for so long he's always had. It's always been him that's been put in, meddling in signings. He's never left alone. I'm hoping that with Fabio Paratici coming in, I'm hoping that will now keep Daniel Levy away from everything, because that's the only way we're going to move forward. I did say that this new director of football was a big step as well as a manager, but we still haven't sorted out a manager. Hopefully this will be for Daniel Levy to take a backward step and keep away, just deal with the business side. He's good at that, but just leave the football business on the pitch, because he always meddled with Pochettino. He always, if you think about it, Bergwijn was more he's wanting to buy him than Mourinho. I think for too long now, for me, it seems like he thinks it's football manager where he can pick and choose who he wants in. But I'm just hoping that this new director of football, should we get him, because nothing's guaranteed with Spurs at the moment, should we get him and he actually sign, hopefully that would be the upturn that we need for the starting block we need for an upturn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you look ahead to next season, even with this uncertainty around the managerial position, you've got to think if Tottenham don't do their business right and they don't bring in the right players, they let go of their best players, they don't bring in the right managerial appointment, this director of football somehow falls through. You can imagine Tottenham finishing quite low next season, even just, you'll probably finish above Arsenal, but I think that it could be just as low as Arsenal, because they're not going through a good period either. And you look at the teams in this 30th anniversary season next season. Teams like Brentford that are going to try and want to prove something to football, Norwich that have got better since their last trip, Watford are going to want to get better. West Ham going to want to, even get better than that 5th place finish, which is unheard of. Aston Villa's building up a really good squad. Leeds United have done well in their second season, maybe. So there's a lot of teams that's going to be really, after you guys.
Yeah, the only saving grace at the moment, it seems like Arsenal are just as bad as us at the moment. So that's a saving grace for us. That's the only saving grace we've got. I agree. I've said previously on Terrace that this is make or break for Spurs. We've got a lot to get right, and it's going wrong to begin with. Early on, we were told we'd have a manager before the end of the season, and then we were told it would be 7 to 10 days. It's now like 7 days after the season. It now looks like it's going to be another week or so. So it's just taken so long for this. So that's going wrong to begin with. Normally with our signings, we tend to not do business straight away. It takes to take a lot of time with Spurs. So that it just seems that that's going wrong. I've said that this is make or break season for Spurs, and if things don't go right, which are not going right so far, I can see us dropping back to where we were so under Juan de Ramos, where we were like 14th. We won a cup, and that's one of the only ones in my lifetime. But I just see us going back to that level because everything seems to be going wrong for us at this moment in time.
Yeah, and I remember seeing you guys in the 08-09 season very early on under Juan de Ramos, bottom of the league, and then getting rid of him and the sporting director David Camoli and bringing in Harry Redknapp to try and get you guys back up. So I remember when you guys were at the worst of the times, and when the Messiah came back, Glenn, and and obviously he left. So you've been under some interesting managerial appointments. Christian Gross, another one. I think there's a real. Oh God, I've just seen on this. I think Romania scored or nearly scored. But no, it's not been great for Tottenham. I mean, who realistically now would you see being your manager? Because obviously Conte might still happen, but I really don't see it. You can't go back in for Poch because he's not going to leave PSG now. People are saying the realistic ones are going to be Graham Potter, Eddie Howe. Maybe Ryan Mason's a tough one for me because I know people don't want Ryan Mason on a permanent deal. I'm in a conflicted situation with Ryan Mason because he was on loan to Doncaster Rovers a few years back. So I'm sort of like, I want to let Ryan Mason do well because I want to support one of our former players. But on the other hand, I'm thinking, I just don't think he's experienced enough, if I'm being brutally honest. So, I mean, realistically, who could you be looking at here?
So, I mean, I don't think Conte is going to happen. I see, like you say, reports that could still happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Pochettino's probably not going to happen now with PSG. The links are that maybe Ten Hag, again, going back for him. The ones that are left, I would probably prefer him because the way he's football and his philosophy of football would fit the Tottenham way and the players we have. Martinez, I wouldn't want him, but he's in for the running. I don't really know who else is left, and it's for managers to understand all having different jobs or us making the pig's ear of it ourselves. So from the ones that are left and ones we are linked with, I'd probably say Ten Hag I'd take, but will he come to us after the going away from him and going for Poch and Conte? I don't think so. I think he'll stay at Ajax. So for me, I said very early on, a little while ago, that maybe Martinez would be where we'd end up, and I think it could be Martinez.
Yeah, I think Roberto Martinez seems to be one of the big names out there. You were saying about Ten Hag. I've been hearing reports in the last 24, 48 hours that he's, staying at Ajax for at least another season. So, I mean, it probably looks like it's going to be Roberto Martinez or someone of that nature. How would you feel, though, if it is someone like Ryan Mason or Eddie Howe? Would you go on board with that, or would you think that maybe it is going back to those levels again of we need to sort of build up from the bottom, even if it means mid-table finishes?
For me, it's way too early for Ryan Mason. I mean, you saw the last international he was in charge of. The two decent teams we played, we lost to both Leeds and Villa. The other teams we done all right, but he seemed to just pick players that he was friends with, and to be a manager, you have to have that cutthroatness about you, and I don't think he's got that because it's way too early. Don't get me wrong, he could go on to be a really good manager, but a job at the size of Tottenham is way too early for him. Eddie Howe, I think it's too big a job for him as well. That's the same reason I think maybe Potter, I wouldn't take Potter because it's too big a job for him. I don't like seeing managers, young or who are good, being thrown into, because from what the looks of it, like Arteta Arsenal, thrown into a big job too soon. It needs to be struggling with it. So I wouldn't want that. I'd want an established manager who's had years in the job to be able to, just have that where we can just level off and we can build from there. I think any of the other managers we've named would be a bit too soon for him.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Obviously, one other sort of big topic this season among the bigger clubs, and I've done videos on this as well because it's it would have affected the financial implications for us as well, and it would have made us more poor. And that is, of course, the European Super League. I mean, this was something that really struck the world of football. It struck the world in a way as well. And, fans really stepped up and tried to take the power back. Obviously, there's been a few things in the last week from the European Super League. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus still involved in it. Looks like they could be kicked out of the Champions League or will be kicked out of the Champions League if they're still in it by the same time next week or so. I've also seen the Madrid Zone on Twitter be putting official confidential documents with the club's signatures for all 12 clubs founding members of the Super League as well. I'm hearing a tweet from via Madrid Zone, but it was a comment from a European lawyer, a top European lawyer from the EU court, or a former lawyer from the EU court, that basically said he thinks the EU court's going to pass this Super League on. I mean, when you sort of hear stuff like this about the website still being up, the contracts and the sort of signatures from chairmen being officially unveiled, and the stuff from this European lawyer, do you still have confidence this is going to collapse, or do you sort of look at the stuff recently and think this might actually go ahead, don't matter what any of us do?
I think it's one of them because it has come up before. This was the furthest there's been a couple of times in history, like in previous history, where they've put out things about it and it's been shot down. I think they're doing it like every couple of years. It'll come out and it'll be like the next step in trying to push it through. So this is as far as they've gone with having the clubs. I think it's not going to go through in its current format anytime soon. I think it will be years down the line where it's like a rejig and the way things are worked out for it to go ahead, and it might be the new Champions League, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. It doesn't surprise me that the teams like Real Madrid and that are the ones still have wanting to stake in it because they've got financial trouble. Real Madrid, they're really struggling financially. That's why Perez was pushing it. The thing that annoyed me most about Spurs being in it is that not what people have said previously, why are Spurs in it? We've got no cup. It was all for the money. So the biggest clubs in the league were going to be part of it. But not one of the teams decided to ask their fans, is this something you'd like? Is this something you think, or any ideas? It was just completely sign up for it. I think it was to test waters and see how it went. And obviously it didn't go really well for them. And I think give it a couple of years and they might try and attempt something different, or try the next step and introduce something like a relegation format to try and make people go, okay, that's not so bad because other teams can progress into it. And I think it'll be an ongoing thing for several years to try and get this through. But in the current format, I don't think it's, it has no place in football.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I spoke on my videos as well. I think the financial implications from that, they said, that we're going to help people low down the pyramid. That to me was absolute, it was rubbish because I looked at that format and I thought, well, what's going to happen here is that all the money's going to get taken away from the Premier League, which means their parachute payments won't exist, which means we're going to get poorer and poorer, and our community clubs are going to go out of business. So,
it would be clubs lower down the league that would be the ones to suffer, like League 2, League 1, the lower tiers of the conference, where they would be the teams to struggle, and quite a few would go under. And for me, that's not what football's about.
Yeah, we would have died if that went ahead in the current format. So, I'm glad it's on hold for now, but we'll see what happens in the next few years. Finally, then, obviously one of the big transfer sagas of the summer for Tottenham Hotspur fans, of course, the staying or going of Harry Kane, arguably one of your most legendary modern era players in Tottenham Football Club history. A record goal scorer, breaking Shearer's record. record. He's done it all. And funnily enough, a few years ago, before he broke into that squad, he was actually, learning his trade in the English Football League on loan at Leyton Orient. So, that's why I hate the Super League, because I think the Football League brought these players to them. So, Harry Kane, in a way, what, from your point of view, where do you see Harry Kane going in terms of his destination? Do you think he's going to be forced to stay at Tottenham, depending on the manager situation, or do you think that another side in the Premier League, or maybe even Europe, could put the right price in?
So the way I see it is Harry Kane's our biggest player. He's the one that, single-handedly almost single-handedly this season, his goals and assists has kept us 7th, and that's not. If it weren't for him, we probably would have been in a position where we've been talking about like 14th or below. What must he be thinking about this managerial thing taking so long and not like close to landing a world-class manager, and then we're pulling away because apparently Conte is too ambitious for us? He must be looking, going, I'm right in what I'm thinking here about leaving. He must be thinking, yeah, it's time for me to move on from Spurs. For him in his career to be considered one of the top, for me, he's one of the best, even if he was at another club and hadn't won anything. His performances and his stats, I'd say he's one of the best in the world. But people say you have to win trophies to be considered that, which I don't necessarily agree with. So I believe for his own stature in the game, he would have to win stuff, and it looks like it may be away from Spurs, and he's done everything he can for us. So if he wants success for himself, I wouldn't begrudge him with that. So teams that I think can get him in the Premier League, financially would be free, but we wouldn't do business with Chelsea. There's no way that's happening because of Daniel Levy and Abramovich. They just won't do business. So even if Chelsea came in and said, here's 150 million, I think Daniel Levy would be like, no, we want 200 million. If they would go, here goes 200 million, Daniel Levy would have 250. I don't think that's ever going to happen. And I've actually got a bet on that not happening. And if I'm wrong, I'd have to wear a Chelsea shirt, which I'm hoping I'm right on that. Don't want that to happen. But I believe if it's anywhere in the Premier League, it won't be United because he wants to win trophies. And for me, no disrespect to Man United, but they're furthest out of the 3 that I'm naming now to winning the trophy. It will be anywhere. It'll be Man City. Whether that, I don't think it'll be the full amount. It'll be like a money plus player for him to go to Man City. And barring that, if it's no one in the Premier League, I think the only team that could afford him with money-wise who aren't in any trouble would be PSG. And that way he'd link back up with Poch. I think that would be a sway because I know he doesn't want to go out of the league. He doesn't want to go abroad, but that would probably be the only saving grace for him is that he'd be with Poch. And people say he wouldn't do that because of Mbappe, but I believe Mbappe might move on in the next year or so. So yeah, I think it would be my 2 picks would be Man City in the Premier League or it would be PSG abroad. But he's irreplaceable at this moment in time for what he does for us. So it's just another thing that makes me think that this is going to be a very bad season for Spurs if he goes.
Yeah,
I want to be positive, but I can't be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think the PSG one's very interesting because obviously, it's been talked about in the last 24 hours that, Mbappe would want to move to Real Madrid. And some journalists have said that Mbappe could move to Real Madrid, and Benzema's come out and said, he'd love to see Mbappe at Real Madrid. So, if Mbappe does make the move this season or next season, maybe Harry Kane will be the replacement at Poch's squad since Poch isn't leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if Mbappe was to go, I believe that would be where he would end up in PSG. I believe it would be Man City or PSG. I don't see him going anywhere else. But I was just thinking, going over it again. I know there's rumours going that Zidane. People are saying about Zidane to PSG. That would be the only way to get Poch back to us. But that might keep Kane. Conte might keep Kane. Any other manager comes in, no disrespect to him, but I don't think they're going to be at the calibre to be able to make Kane say, I want to stay at Spurs. It just depends on Daniel Levy, whether he's going to be like, I'm going to sell him or not, because he's still got 3 years left. So Daniel Levy's very stubborn in business. He's caused us many problems from trying to sign players before. In history, we were linked with Bruno Fernandes. Daniel Levy, because of him, didn't get him. And there was another player saluted me that I can't remember who it was, but Daniel Levy's been at fault for quite a few players that we haven't got previously. So I see Harry Kane going. yeah, and it's just going to be a dire season for Spurs.
There's the pun, Dyer, Eric Dyer. But yeah, I think that's the only way to describe it, really. I think with Kane leaving, with the managerial vacancy uncertain, I think it's going to be a very uncertain, dire season. But Alan, thank you very, very much for coming on Rovers and Rivals today. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem. I wish you would have been on better circumstances where I'd be a bit more cheerful about a potential Spurs next Spurs season. But with the how we are at the moment, it's not positive at all.
Yeah.
But thanks for having me.
Yeah, I get that. But thank you guys for watching this as well. Make sure you do like, comment, subscribe. Click the notification bell so you never miss YouTube video. We've got plenty of coverage to come. The Euros, the Olympics coverage, hopefully in July. So stay tuned for that if we do that. Obviously, hopefully, from what we've heard from reports, we do apparently have a medical tomorrow for Ben Close of Portsmouth. So stay tuned just in case there is a transfer analysis video. But for now, guys, I'm Aaron Chandler from Throw Football, DRFC. Keep living the Rovers life. If you do want to check me out on other shows, obviously you can check me out on the Football Terrace where Alan is. You can also check me out on other shows as well. I'll be going on there a lot more often. Stay tuned for that. And for now, guys, keep living the Rovers life. And that, my friends, full time. Rovers till I die. Thank you very much.